What's going on, guys? This is VinylicPuma, back with another video, and today I may piss some people off with what I want to talk about today, but this is something that I've wanted to talk about for a while now, but just never got around to it. And what it is I've been noticing this bizarre phenomenon with both Fallout 76 and Cyberpunk 2077, and the backlash that both of these games are getting. Now, just in case you're not familiar with both of these backlashes, the backlash for Fallout 76 is mostly about how fans are upset that the game is going to be always online and that there won't be any single player. As a Fallout fan myself, I have to admit that I was pretty upset that this was the case, as I thought that Fallout 76 was originally going to be more like New Vegas with some kind of multiplayer component. As for Cyberpunk 2077, a lot of the backlash for the game seems to surround the fact that The Witcher 3 was a third-person game, and the revelation that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be in first person has just pissed a lot of people off. I guess I sort of understand why this has upset people, as there has been a trend towards turning everything into an FPS in the AAA video game industry for the past decade. However, I have some reservations. This is mostly because of a fairly recent video posted by Legacy Killer HD here on YouTube that features a certain change.org petition concerning the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is an FPS. Now, before I start ranting, please don't send this guy any hate, because he does a lot of great work with covering gaming news here on YouTube, but I had to talk about this particular petition / backlash to Cyberpunk 2077 because I honestly think it's bullshit and that there's not really that much of a true backlash to the game at all. If you look at the petition at the time of making this video, there are currently 200 people or so that have signed it. Now, I'm not here to say that there aren't people that aren't upset that Cyberpunk 2077 is an FPS, but at the same time, 200 people isn't especially impressive when you consider that this particular petition has been available since June 13th, 2018. Now, I suppose you could say that not everybody is going to go to change.org to fill out a petition on how upset they are at the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is an FPS, but you got to admit that this backlash at least appears to be minuscule if it's even real at all. Conversely, there's the backlash to Fallout 76. If you check out the change.org petitions, it is worth mentioning that there are 2 single-player petitions for Fallout 76, with one consisting of 600 or so supporters, while the other, which is called Keep the Lone Wanderer Wandering Alone, has well over 14,000 supporters. Not only is this a far larger number, but both Fallout 76 petitions are older, with both being made on June 11, 2018. While I suppose you could say that some of these 14,000 people are trolls, I have some reason to believe that they aren't based on some YouTube statistics. If you check out both the Cyberpunk 2077 E3 trailer versus the Fallout 76 official E3 trailer, you'll notice something pretty interesting. While both games were received fairly well, you'll notice that the total number of likes, comments, and overall like-to-dislike ratio is far more favorable for Cyberpunk 2077 when compared to the Fallout 76 trailer. Now, it is worth mentioning that Fallout 76 does have more overall views than Cyberpunk 2077. However, I suspect that's because there was a huge ad buy taken out on the Fallout 76 trailer, and it's also worth mentioning that Cyberpunk 2077 requires you to log on to YouTube and have an account to actually view the video. If you had no YouTube account, YouTube actually blocks the video, provided that you're viewing it on the YouTube website. Now, in Bethesda and Fallout 76's defense, you could make the argument that the backlash is certainly not the majority of the fanbase, if we base the backlash on the number of dislikes the trailer has received. 89,000 likes to 10,000 dislikes isn't an ideal ratio, but the reception for Fallout 76 does admittedly appear to be mostly positive. However, unlike Cyberpunk 2077, there appears to be a tangible backlash to Fallout 76, and I would say that a tenth of the potential player base is kind of significant. By comparison, I would argue if people were really upset about Cyberpunk 2077 being a first-person game, then I think there would be far more dislikes on the actual Cyberpunk 2077 reveal trailer. Given that the trailer has a very high like-to-dislike ratio, and that most people didn't seem bothered enough to protest and leave dislikes on it, again, I kind of feel like the backlash is just kind of fake or non-existent. It just seems to me that the backlash would have been reflected in a far more observable way, like Bethesda has experienced with Fallout 76. And who knows, maybe all of this can be chalked up to the fact that Fallout 76 is a part of the Fallout franchise, which is a more established and popular IP than Cyberpunk 2077 is. But even still, I have to wonder just how upset people really are with Cyberpunk 2077. I guess the question is, what got a lot of major news outlets, YouTubers, and various other online personalities talking about this Cyberpunk 2077 backlash in the first place? Well, I guess some of it has to do with some carryover and hate for the modern FPS genre in general. Pretty much all of the biggest games in the genre, like Call of Duty and Battlefield, hog all of the spotlight and frequently bury games that don't fit the same formula. Given that The Witcher 3 was a very successful third-person RPG and bucked a lot of trends, I guess some people were disappointed, but didn't seem to be too disappointed enough to truly make their voices heard, where they did with Fallout 76. Or maybe disappointment with Cyberpunk 2077 mostly just extends to a few people in the gaming press that have the power to really get their message heard, where most people don't really care all that much. Thus, you didn't really see that much of an impact on things like trailers and other promotional material. If you ask me, I would say that the Cyberpunk petition / backlash is pretty overblown. Granted, I'm sure there are some people that are upset that the game is in first-person mode, but they don't really seem to be too upset enough to actively petition like we've seen with Fallout 76. Now, I know that I've beaten up on Fallout 76 a lot in previous videos, and to some extent, this video as well. For my Fallout fans out there, I do think that Fallout 76 will probably be okay. It just sucks that it's going to be always online, and I, like you, definitely wish that Fallout 76 was going to be a single-player RPG in the veins of New Vegas or even Fallout 4. But I do think that Fallout 76 may actually end up being pretty fun once it releases in November of this year. Plus, I do want to check out some of the new in-game areas and check out some of the new weapons that they added, like the musket and huge machine gun that we've seen in the trailer so far. Not to mention that it's going to be nice to play a Fallout game with some more lush scenery, even if it is a quasi-MMORPG, semi-persistent game world, sort of like Destiny or GTA Online. At the same time, I have to say it's kind of weird that based on what we've been hearing about Cyberpunk 2077, that it's actually going to be more like Fallout 4 or New Vegas than Fallout 76 is. Granted, CD Projekt Red has mentioned that they intended on adding multiplayer to Cyberpunk at some point, and I've also heard them say that Cyberpunk 2077 is supposedly going to be more like Deus Ex. However, Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be a single-player RPG FPS, and I think that's what many of us actually wanted Fallout 76 to be. And if CD Projekt Red can incorporate some of the best parts of Bethesda's games, like how a lot of Bethesda's games have awesome mod support, then I suspect that Cyberpunk 2077 could definitely give Bethesda a run for their money. Then again, who knows, maybe I'm just fangirling. Ultimately though, guys, I would say that if you're worried about either Fallout 76 or Cyberpunk 2077, both will probably be good games, and in the case of Cyberpunk 2077 in particular, if the gameplay and story are as good as the trailer was, I'd say that Cyberpunk 2077 has the potential to be a Game of the Year contender in whatever year it releases. So I've got to say that I can't wait to get my hands on the game and play it, and I guess I'm boarding the hype train for Cyberpunk 2077. Hopefully the game kicks ass. But alright guys, I think that's going to wrap up this particular video. If you liked this video, feel free to leave a like, and also, if Legacy Killa manages to come across this video, I just want to say that I've got nothing against you. It just seems silly to me that there is some perceived backlash to the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is a first-person game. So again, Legacy Killa, this isn't a criticism of you, it's more so of the change.org petition. Otherwise guys, like this video if you liked it, click the bell so you can be notified when I upload more videos, and as always, thank you all so much for supporting the channel, take care, and I'll see y'all in the next one.